It was just another rainy morning at St. Helena's Hospital. The halls buzzed with the usual hum of footsteps, stretchers, and softly spoken medical jargon. Nurse Emily Carter, known for her gentle smile but quiet demeanor, tucked a stray lock of hair behind her ear as she began her shift. She wasn't one to draw attention. In fact, most of her colleagues knew her as the shy nurse who always stayed late. What no one knew was that Emily had learned sign language years ago for a very personal reason. Her younger brother Mason was born deaf. Life had taught her that kindness often speaks louder than words. That morning, a hush swept through the hospital staff room. Rumor had it that Evelyn Monroe, the elderly mother of billionaire CEO Alexander Monroe, was being admitted for observation. The Monroes weren't just any family. They owned one of the largest healthcare technology companies in the country. Everyone whispered about their arrival, wondering how they would be treated, what special requests they might make, and how much pressure they'd bring. Emily, as usual, didn't pay much attention. To her, a patient was a patient, rich or poor, famous or forgotten. When Mrs. Monroe was wheeled into the ward, Emily immediately noticed her discomfort. The older woman's eyes darted nervously as nurses tried to communicate, but she didn't respond. That's when Emily saw it. The subtle gestures, the confused lip-reading. Evelyn Monroe was deaf. Without hesitation, Emily stepped forward. She smiled warmly and began signing, "Hello, Mrs. Monroe. My name is Emily. You're safe here." The older woman's face lit up instantly. Her tense hands relaxed as she signed back, a flood of relief in her eyes. For the first time that morning, someone spoke her language. Unbeknownst to Emily, a tall man in a tailored navy suit had walked in just in time to see the exchange. Alexander Monroe, CEO of Monroe Global, had come to check on his mother personally. He had seen countless nurses in his life, most polite, some efficient, but none had ever greeted his mother with such effortless compassion. He stood there silently, watching this young nurse gently adjust his mother's blanket and smile without pretense or fear of who she was helping. Emily wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was simply being kind. After Emily finished helping Mrs. Monroe settle in, she turned around and froze when she realized someone had been watching. Her heart raced. "Mr. Monroe," she stammered, her cheeks turning pink. I didn't see you there." Alexander smiled faintly, his eyes soft. "You know sign language?" he asked. "Yes," Emily replied quietly. "My brother's deaf. It helps me connect with patients who might feel isolated." Alexander nodded slowly, visibly moved. Most people just nod and walk away. You didn't. The next few days, Alexander visited the hospital often. He saw how Emily went out of her way to comfort every patient, how she brought Mrs. Monroe her favorite tea without being asked, or stayed past her shift just to hold an elderly man's hand as he fell asleep. One evening, while Emily was charting notes by the nurse's station, Alexander approached her. "My mother talks about you constantly," he said with a grin. "She says you made her feel human again." Emily blushed. "She's a wonderful lady. I'm just glad I could help." He hesitated, then added, "You didn't just help her. You helped me see something I'd forgotten. My company builds medical tech, but I think we've lost touch with the heart behind it. Watching you reminded me why we started." The weeks later, Mrs. Monroe was discharged. On her last day, she signed to Emily, "Thank you for treating me like a person, not a name." Emily smiled back, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You don't need to thank me." As the Monroes left, Emily thought that would be the end of it. But a few days later, she was summoned to the hospital's main office. Nervously, she stepped inside and froze again. There sat Alexander Monroe, this time with a formal letter in hand. "Emily," he said, standing up, "I'd like to offer you something." He handed her the letter. Inside was an invitation to join Monroe Global's new Human Care Initiative, a project designed to bridge technology and empathy in patient care. Emily's role, to lead the nursing team, shaping policies based on compassion and inclusion. "I want every hospital we partner with to have nurses who see what you see," Alexander said sincerely. "You changed my mother's life. Now, I'd like you to help us change millions more." The tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "I'm not sure I'm qualified." Alexander shook his head gently. "You are exactly what this world needs." Months later, Emily stood on stage beside Alexander at a medical conference, introducing the initiative to hundreds of healthcare leaders. She was still shy, still humble, but her message was powerful. "We can build machines that heal," she said softly, "but only people can make others feel healed." Sometimes, a single gesture of kindness can speak louder than any words. The audience erupted in applause, and in the front row Evelyn Monroe smiled proudly, her hands signing, "Well done." Emily signed back, "Thank you." And in that moment, the shy nurse who once stood quietly in a hospital hallway had become the voice and the heart of a movement that reminded the world that true wealth isn't measured by what we have, but by how we care. As the applause faded and the lights dimmed, Emily stood still for a moment, her heart pounding. The roar of the crowd felt unreal. Just months ago, she was a quiet nurse tucked away in a small hospital wing, unnoticed and unseen. Now, she was standing beside one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, speaking about something that had always come naturally to her: kindness. After the event, reporters surrounded them, microphones flashing, questions firing from every direction. But Alexander stepped forward protectively, shielding Emily from the chaos. "We'll take questions later," he said firmly, guiding her backstage. When they finally reached the quiet of the green room, Emily exhaled a shaky laugh. "That was a lot." Alexander smiled, handing her a bottle of water. "You did perfectly. My mother texted me mid-speech. She said she's never been prouder." Emily's eyes softened. "She's the reason this all started. Meeting her changed my life too." For a moment, silence filled the room. A comfortable silence that needed no explanation. Then Alexander spoke, his tone more personal. "You know, when my father passed away, I threw myself into work. I thought success would fill the empty spaces. But watching you with my mother, I realized I'd forgotten how to connect. You reminded me what real care looks like." Emily looked down, her cheeks warm. "I just try to treat people the way I'd want someone to treat my family." "That's exactly why you're special," Alexander said quietly. Days turned into weeks, and Emily's new role began shaping hospitals across the country. She trained staff to understand that healing wasn't only in medicine, but in touch, eye contact, and compassion. Under her guidance, nurses began learning basic sign language, hospitals installed communication-friendly systems for the hearing impaired, and patients who once felt invisible began smiling again.